And I got on it after Jessica died because she was on Facebook and Rick had friended her on Facebook, and so the day after she died, he went and posted on her Facebook that she had died.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I decided to join. And then we got over 1,000 responses in the next 2 days on her Facebook about her. And then we started getting stories from all around the world, really literally all around the world, about people who had met her that we never even knew she had contact with.
Right.
And how much. But I was thinking, I don't know, I think most of us spend a lot of our lives just trying to figure out who we are and what we mean, you know.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking about this on the way home today, because I'm about as screaming liberal as you can get, you know.
Yeah.
And I grew up in probably the most conservative county in Washington. But my dad was a Democrat and my mom was a Republican, so I think I just grew up with a foot in both camps all the time.
Yeah.
And so I never really identified as one thing or the other, and then kind of the rest of my life was that way too. But then I think it's probably a really good thing, because instead of like thinking that I figured out who I was or anything like that, I think really life is much more about just this evolving process of invention and reinvention of yourself.
Yeah. Exactly.
So when Jess died and then Dad died right after that, and you know, that followed just we had like 4 years that were just hell. Rick had a motorcycle wreck, a bad one, with a head injury. And then a year later, about 8 months later, his colon burst. And he was in the hospital for 3 months and almost died twice. Jess was in the hospital at the same time. We were on our first motorcycle ride after Rick had his colon surgery. It was a year after it. And that's when I wrecked my bike. And I don't know, I guess I'm saying all of this because, you know, I spent so many weeks in the hospital and so many months just learning how to walk and shit again. And we were really blessed because Jess was living with us, and so she was able to take care of me and stuff. But I think that... And then, you know, like every 6 months it was something. Judy died, then Jesse died, then Dad died. And then at the end of that, it was like, I think I told you before, you know, you go through that kind of shit, and I just decided, I don't know, life's short, you know.
Yeah. You gotta appreciate it. Everything for what it is. So, like, what is your profession? Like, what do you do for a living?
I'm a therapist.
You're a therapist?
Yeah.
And you kind of counsel people with their problems? Mm-hmm. Is it specific to a certain
population?
Age? Yeah.
No, I'll work with kids, well, depending on how well they talk and communicate, as early as 3, sometimes earlier.
Yeah.
With the parent if they're younger. My expertise is in parenting. So I work with a lot of parents and children.
Okay.
But I also do a lot of trauma work with adults. I worked a lot with...
Trauma as in?
PTSD.
Oh, with veterans?
Yeah, I did a lot of work with the VA for a long, long time. But, you know, I worked for them for a long time, saw a lot of guys, and they owe me $40,000.
Oh, wow.
And I've never seen a dime. You know, it's like, I can't run a practice on that, so I can't really work with the vets anymore unless they have private insurance, you know. But mostly kids, a lot of kids in ugly, nasty divorce cases.
Nasty divorces. How long have you been doing that for?
The divorce work I started even before I had my degrees, so that's 30 years ago.
30 years?
Yeah.
Like, you know, once you finish your training and your schooling and everything, it's still an amount of, like, on-the-work training that you have to do. It's probably still ongoing, right?
Yeah, I had to do...
I mean, just like learning, just understanding people and learning.
Oh yeah, it never ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. The nice thing, I guess it is nice. The nice thing about the times that we're in right now is that we're learning so much about the mind-body connection.
Yeah.
So really the face of therapy is changing because we're learning how to integrate physical health with mental health in a way better way. So, and also the thing that's really changing now is the realization that we can't, especially children, we can't treat just children. Mm-hmm. We have to treat the whole family. Because if a child comes in with a problem, there's something wrong with the family, almost always.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's something wrong with the child, genetically or biologically, but developmentally.
Yeah, when you see something, a bad habit, it's probably enabled by the parent.
Yeah, bad behavior. Sometimes not even enabled. Sometimes it's created by the parent.
Oh, really?
Yeah. By how they're responding or usually not responding.
Yeah. That's important as well.
Kids are growing up with way too few boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah. They don't learn boundaries. That's the biggest problem.
That's what I think too. It's like you need to give them a choice, like a small amount of choices.
From this age.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when they fail, let them fail.
Yeah.
If they screw up, let them screw up.
Yeah.
And be there and love them and help them pick them up and try them again. But you don't bail them out of it. This is the big thing. One of the things I absolutely detest is when a kid gets in trouble in school, the parent goes to the school and defends the child.
What was it?
And the parent goes to the school and defends the child and doesn't really find out the whole story, but automatically kids are taught that their authority is wrong. Yeah. That the teachers are wrong.
No, I'd actually communicate with the parent, like, and sit them down and let them, empathize with what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think communication is very important with everyone involved.
Well, I don't think people take the time to communicate anymore.
Yeah.
We just take it at face value. And I honestly think, Ron, that electronic communication, not just social media, but the use of texts and stuff has kind of brought us to that in a way, or it's accelerated that.
Yeah, it's basically a tool that if you abuse it, it's not, it's almost reversing its use. But what's one common thing that you see when someone comes to you for help? Just like something that you automatically just identify with, like, every time.
Loneliness.
Loneliness?
People don't have friends.
Yeah. Where do you think loneliness is from?
I don't think it's from lack of not knowing people.
Yeah. I
think it's an increasing lack of the ability to have intimate relationship.
Oh, wow. Can you say that one more time?
That loneliness, I think the loneliness that I see now consistently stems from a growing lack of the ability to have intimate relationships, which largely is due to lack of communication, efficient communication.
Do you think about fear falls in?
All the time.
Just fear of just trying new things, stepping out of your comfort zone, fear of talking to other people, social anxiety.
Uh-huh. Well, I think we see social anxiety at a level we've never, ever seen it or experienced it in this world, frankly. Because we live in a really frightening world right now. People are afraid of it,
Well, the thing is, like, being social, I learned, is something you have to practice. It's something you have to learn. You're not really... You're probably born with some of the attributes, but it's something, like being a teacher, you gotta stand up in front of a class, you gotta kind of practice it a little bit.
Yeah.
But loneliness, I find myself being lonely, but I turn it into something productive. If I'm lonely, I'll make a collage and put music to it and just reminisce about those people I miss.
Yeah, use that.
So I try to channel my negative energy into a positive way.
The other thing that I try and teach people is that it's really okay to be lonely sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, that's a really creative place to be in if you tap into it. And it's a really great place to do personal growth.
Yeah. I definitely agree.
People are really uncomfortable being alone with themselves, man.
You know, I realize that. You know, when you're used to something a lot, it's hard to do without.
Well, yeah, people want distraction too.
Yeah. Like I've had like nonstop people this whole month, and I'm usually an introvert. I draw power from being by myself, and then when I expel that power when I'm socially. But lately, I haven't had a lot of downtime, so I've had to adapt. But it's draining. Being social is draining.
Making friends is hard.
Well,
Being a friend is a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. But it's well worth it. But
Okay.
loneliness, I think fear is the biggest thing I see. Fear of trying something new, fear of changing bad habits or making new ones.
Yeah.
And I do agree with reinventing yourself. I'm glad you stood on that because today I messed up. I admit making a mistake today
What?
because I was a little mad. And I was mad because I didn't have something I'm used to having. So I kind of asserted myself in a way I probably shouldn't have done. But it wasn't, I wasn't trying to be, mean about it, but I probably should have had more patience about it.
With your sister?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, what happened?
No, I woke up and I didn't have any money for food or anything or just cigarettes or, just common shit that we have. And I was kind of mad because I have money in an account for this fundraiser we're doing, and it's not a lot, but I felt like I didn't have access to it, which I do, but not as like willingly as I do.
Well, not without going through your sister.
Yeah. But and she's
it's
always
like having to ask your mom.
Yeah.
Allowance, right?
Why not? That's my sister.
Yeah.
Now. Which is I'm glad she's handling it, kind of. But I mean, it's one less thing for me to do. But just there's a small communication gap which is getting worked out. But I made a mistake because I was out of my element, and when I was out of my element, my whole routine was off, and which made me like make mistakes with my procedure. Like I left my wallet on the table because I was so just like consumed by this one thought that I made up in my mind that I needed to do. So after I did that, asked my sister for money, I thought I was out of there. I thought I was cool. I was like, yeah, I'm out. Go in my car, look for my wallet, not there. I left my door open because unlocked because it's just we're in Sakana Shell. I don't fear anyone's gonna steal anything from me. So, but I had a negative thought that possibly could happen, but I played it off and just decided to go home and check my house to see it, and then respond from there. And what I found was my wallet sitting right in plain view. Yeah. And I do. I had to come back and ask my sister if I left my shit. And it's a whole security thing you have to go through, and the tribal thing. Like I don't have like card anymore, so it's like it's kind of like a whole scene.
Yeah.
But I didn't show ass, but I wasn't in my element, and I know personally I messed up, but I didn't show it publicly. But
well, I'm still not sure where you messed up.
Well, I messed up because I let myself think that I needed something that I really kind of could have waited for. And in that time, it wound me up so much that I inadvertently like left my wallet, which is something I never do. I left it for 2 hours on my in front of maybe has my credit cards. I was planning out what I was gonna do. Like, would I change my credit cards and have to do some other shit, like find some other keys, or I don't know, but I had it all planned out.
Yeah.
But one thing I didn't do was react like negatively towards anyone else.
You responded.
Yeah, I
Nice
responded.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just thought about it a little bit, but I was really short and just like, where'd you go? I was just talking to him. I was like, I gotta go. I gotta check my shit, see where it's at. But so
She'll run. Come here.
all right, we're almost done. But I have a wealth of knowledge here, so I must ask you a couple more questions.
Okay.
So you've lived a nice life, and you realize certain things now as you grow older, right? What is something that you now realize about life that you wish you knew a little sooner?
Well, that's a tough one, Ron. You know, I really am a believer that I am who I am because of all of the triumphs and the failures. So I don't know that I'd want to remove any of that.
Yeah.
The one thing I would definitely, I guess, change is I only drank really, really heavy for 3 years, but it was during the 3 years that the girls were in high school. And I would change that. You know, I would quit drinking sooner and just not drink like I did.
What did you realize about drinking that was not productive?
Well, it's like any addiction. It's, you know, it's the monster that takes over your life. And, you know, I'd be driving down the road on the way to the liquor store having the whole conversation about, you know, I'm choosing booze over my kids, over my career, over my husband, and having that conversation the whole time I'm driving to the liquor store with myself, and then walking into the liquor store.
Wow.
You know, and buying the booze anyway. And
Jesus, and you were having that conversation with all you wanted was that?
in my head constantly.
Wow. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so stick to the weed, like
Yeah.
note to self.
Yeah.
Okay.
No booze. No, I gave it up 17 years ago, so
Okay, I'm gonna dig a little deeper.
go for it.
What do you think the meaning of life is?
Growth.
Growth?
Yeah.
What do you mean growth?
I think it's kind of a self-perpetuating thing and it gets back to that discussion we had on perspective before. You know, we can choose to look at it from, like you can look at, you know, fuck, I'm down and out, and I could be miserable and depressed and suicidal and all this stuff, but like you said, you feel like you're living in Disneyland here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's the meaning of life, Ron, is wherever you find yourself, you go, I can do this.
Wherever you are, you're here.
Yeah.
You're there.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just there you are, because a lot of people are there they are, and they're in a little really shitty, miserable place,
Yeah.
you know. But a lot of us are where we are, and a lot of people might think that's a shitty, miserable place, but we don't.
Yeah.
Right?
All about perspective, huh?
Well, for me, you know, and I hate cliches. I freaking hate cliches,
Yeah.
but it really boils all down to love, Ron. You know,
Love?
and yeah, and it's what do we love and how much do we love it, and you
So-
know, I see people think with big, fancy, beautiful houses, and oh, I love my house, and I love my car, and I love, I love this, and I love that, and I'm really sad for them because, that thing doesn't love you back. It doesn't love you back. And love is not one-sided.
Yeah.
That's not love. I don't love my car. I appreciate the hell out of my car.
Yeah.
And it's a nice car, and it's fucking fancy, and it's
Yeah.
got all the bells and whistles, and that's great, but I don't love that car. It doesn't love me back.
Yeah.
Love isn't just giving. It's about being able to receive it, too. And so I can't have a relationship that doesn't,
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it's all about love.
Yeah. Everything materialistic I have is expendable.
There's nothing I owned that if somebody wanted it, except my car, because I love my car.
Dude, yeah. That car could be sold tomorrow for the right price. My car, at least.
Well, so could mine.
I don't care about that shit. But last question. That was a good one. I like that answer. What do you think? What attributes do you have that make you successful at what you do?
Creative. I'm very, very creative. I figure out how to make things work.
Huh.
I'm not afraid of hard work. In fact, I rather like it.
Okay.
And I'm really amazingly good with people.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm stubborn as hell.
Stubborn, okay.
I am, yeah.
You gotta be.
And you know what a huge piece of it is?
Huh.
And I'm not giving him credit for it, because I did the work.
Yeah.
But I had a guy behind me 180% the whole time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just pushing you,
And,
Had
3
your back.
a.m. when I'm 3 a.m. in the morning and the babies are crying and I've got to get them to daycare and I'm studying for exams and he comes out and, just makes it happen for me.
That's awesome. So you had support.
I had tremendous support from him. Not really anybody else. Nobody in my family's ever gone to college.
Wow. Let's end on this last question. What advice would you give to someone that kind of wanted to be like a psychologist or a counselor or something in that field? Like what do you suggest they do?
First?
Prepare yourself.
Work their own shit first.
What was that?
They need to work out their own shit before they start working other people's shit.
Okay. That's that makes sense.
You got to be really clear on where you're at. You got to have really good boundaries. You got to know yourself.
And how do you suggest knowing yourself?
You do the work. You see a therapist before you become a therapist.
You have to see a therapist to know
You don't
yourself?
have to, but if you can't figure it out, you need to. Because you got no business. I mean, I'm no perfect, and I see a therapist. All therapists see therapists. We'd be fucking crazy if we didn't.
Yeah, I'm sure you see and find out a bunch of stuff that I would never even think about knowing.
It's unbelievable what people will do to each other,
and you can't hear that. You can't unlearn that.
I have a guy I go to because there's stuff I cannot carry.
Yeah.
I gotta go and give it to him.
Yeah. See, I don't know if I like that because I have my limits as well.
What?
I can't ingest stuff that
Take that people's stuff in.
stuff that is kind of negative, like.
No, you have to.
Yeah. It's like because I can't take it away. I can't take the image back.
It was probably the hardest thing I had to learn, and it continues to be the one thing I have to work on the most.
Yeah.
Is how to, de-stress myself, and how not to take people's pain and make it my own.
Oh. That sounds. Wow.
Especially with the children around, because I just love the kids, I end up loving everybody, honestly, but the babies, I'm getting less and less tolerant with bullshit parents.
Yeah. I don't know what it's like to be a parent, but I'm sure I treat it with the most respect as I could, because it's kind of a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. You're responsible for sculpturing that young individual.
Well, not really, Ron.
No?
No, we're responsible for giving that kid the tools they need to sculpt themselves.
Okay. I like that.
Really, isn't that what we should do, is raise them safe and sane with morals and rights and wrong and good work habits and a sense of community and that, and then, send them out into the world with their wings, hoping that they invent a beautiful person for themselves.
Yeah.
My oldest never got that.
Huh.
She just floundered the whole time until she died. Katie, my youngest, is doing that right now. She's out in the middle inventing herself right now. I love it.
That's awesome.
Reinventing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're older and we still do it for ourselves.
I think we must.
Yeah.
My grandmother did that. My grandma went to school when she was 81. Went to college.
That's cool.
Yeah. Went back to college when she was 81.
Well,
So she went to college. She never finished it.
well, thank you for the interview.